Hello folks, Philip here from Supernova Studio. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to use the Mr. Weathering color products from Mr. Hobby, as you see them here. Let me show you. Alright, so I want to look at these products which are not that well known in the model building industry. I know a lot of the Gundam guys use this stuff. Mr. Weathering color. I have 4 different colors here. There's a whole range of them, and that's the solvent for it. Now, when you look at this product, what you're going to be reminded of probably is this. Model builders, especially aircraft guys and a lot of armor guys, use this and have been using it for a long time. There's several differences. The first is if you buy a bottle of this, you're going to notice when you open it up that it doesn't have this. So we're used to using the little brush to apply this to panel lines, doing pin washing. Mr. Color doesn't have it. There's no brush. And although they don't tell you, I think I've figured out why that is. It seems to me that what they've done is they've assumed that if you're a model builder, you have good brushes. So, for example, this, which is a Vallejo Zero brush with a very fine point. And it's a really good brush, it's very accurate. Whereas if you compare that to what you'll get on the Tamiya bottle, you look at that brush, it's just not very good. It's not accurate, it's out of shape. It's a really cheap solution which we're just used to. Going to apply this product with a brush of this quality, you're going to find that it's much easier to use. It's far more accurate, there's less mess and waste, there's less cleanup time. I would recommend, in fact, that if you do use Tamiya, don't use the brush that's in there. Get yourself a brush like this, which is a synthetic fiber, and it's fine. It's not going to harm this brush. You can use this for a long time, and you're going to find that it works a way sight better than what you're going to get out of the cheap brush that comes in this bottle. That's the first difference you'll notice. The second difference is this is an enamel product. Here's the thinner that you'll use for this. It's an enamel paint thinner. This is an enamel paint product. This is an oil paint product. So they are very different. And they use a different solvent. The thinner that goes along with this doesn't really affect this all that much. So if you had to use some sort of enamel paint on your model or did some weathering with enamels, and you come along afterwards and use this stuff and clean up with this, it's not going to affect it very much. It will have some effect, and I'll show that later, but not very much. So you can use this or these products after you've used enamels. So being oil-based, what you'll find is that they have a long working time. That's the first difference you'll see or you'll notice when you use these products. A much longer working time, and I'm going to show you some techniques where you can actually use the sediment that you'll find at the bottom of these bottles. You can see it more clearly here. You can actually use that sediment for some really interesting effects. And so this stuff, as I said, comes in different colors, but it can be used as a traditional pin wash, it can be used as a normal wash, it can be used as a filter, and it can be used to fade in some grimy effects, which I don't know if you could achieve the same thing. I don't think so with an enamel product. The oil-based product gives you more working time, but it does dry much quicker than traditional oil paints, and a lot of us are used to using oil paints in our weathering. So I'm going to show you how I use this in a couple of different scenarios. I'll come back to do that shortly. So let's have a look at the pin wash technique. There's some areas here that I want to highlight in low light and have the highlights pop out, so I'm going to use it unthinned. As you can see, I'm using the Vallejo Zero brush that I showed you earlier, and I've gone over the weld seam that you can see there, and I'm touching up on these little bracket details. So you can see as I touch there, because it's been gloss coated and because I'm using a really thin product, you have a capillary action, which you'll see working here as well. Just touch, you can go up and clean the little bit of overspill there, touch and it'll run right along. And the pigment's strong, so you can see it. Look how those little rivets pop. You could hardly see them before. They're almost invisible, and you get the detail to pop when you do this technique. I want those casting numbers to also stand out a bit, so I just add a bit of wash around them. You can go over all the little bolts and rivets. You can get into the tiny details that seem to disappear, make the springs stand out. And it's really easy when you're using an oil wash, because you don't have to worry about it drying on you. You can go back and do cleanup afterwards. Again, here we can see those little bolts popping out as we touch them, and I'll go around the whole model. It'll take me a bit of time just to go through and make sure that I get all the small little details exactly where I want them. I'm doing these bolts for a second time. I wasn't happy with them the first time around. I wanted to add a bit more pigment, so I'll touch them again. Nice and easy. And once you've done all of that, I'm going to show you the next technique, where I want to go to the in-grain dirt. So I'm shifting to the brown color. There's a couple of browns. This is the lighter brown, and this one has been mixed a bit. If you're going to do this technique, don't mix it, don't shake the bottle. I'm going to put that stirrer in, and right at the bottom get some of that sediment, so you're getting a bit of oil paint that's settled at the bottom. If you haven't mixed it, you'll pull out a lot more. It's a lot thicker, but you need a very small amount. And I've put that on a tile. You can put it on a piece of plastic or glass. Use a toothpick. You can use your paintbrush here as well, but you just need to clean the brush in between applying and then blending. So here I'm just using a toothpick. You need a small amount. I'm going to touch some of this onto the areas where I want to do some dirt blending, and put it down sort of general area where you need it, and you will blend up and down and sideways so you can get it to move around. It's very easy to do. You can't really mess this up because this product is easy to remove. So clean brush, bit of solvent or thinner, and now you're going to blend those spots that you've put down. So move them around. Keep a little bit of paper towel there, so in between moving around and getting some more solvent, you just pull that paint off the brush. It's very difficult for me to do this because I'm working around the camera, so I'm just going to show you the basic technique, and then I'll go, and you can see a bit of subtle color there. It's not enough, so I'm going to put a bit more paint down on it. I'll blend it again, and you just keep doing that until you're happy with it. Put some on, take some off, move it around. You can have it very subtle, you can have it stronger in spots. You can also mix colors. You could put down 2 or 3, even 4 colors onto your palette and just blend them together so you can get variation. I've gone with just a little bit of a mud type color, and I'll move it around on both sides of the model, go back and forth, check it, not happy, add a bit more paint, take some off. You've got a lot of time to work this. There's no rush. You can't really get it wrong because of that, so you can have a bit of fun with this. It's a nice easy technique. Once you've done it a few times, it becomes very simple. The trick is subtlety, I think. If you want to go with something really heavy, you can use some sort of acrylic mud or a product like that. This is for a more subtle, ingrained sort of dirt after driving on a dirt road for a long time. So I want to replicate that. I'm going to finish up with that, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. So here's the final result. I worked it up and down a couple of times until I felt that looked right to me. I went for a more subtle look. You can see the front here. It's a bit difficult to see because of the glare. This is still a gloss coat. The front here is also very light. A little bit of that grime blended in. Again on this side, work it up and down until you're happy with it. I've gone a little bit heavier on the back. I expect that to be dirtier. And there you go. 3 different techniques. I'm going to show you on the mantlet cover. I've used the same product more as a wash, so I've taken it very thin, added a bit of the solvent and put it onto the mantlet cover to get a sort of a color modulation. You have dedicated products for that, but if you're using the Mr. Weathering color, you can do all of it with one product, which is really nice. And so at this point I'm happy with it, and give it a day to fully cure and dry out before you put your final gloss coat on, which will be a flat, a matte color or a matte finish on this model. So overall, very handy products to have, many different colors, many different techniques, one simple, easy product. I like it.